fun. We always have fun. So hello everybody and welcome to this week's Lovely People webinar, and we have the lovely Julian Freeman as our guest this week. It's really good to see you, Julian. It's good to catch up.
It's lovely to be here and to be an associate, if not honorary member of the Lovely People. It's a first for me, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody loves coming on our Lovely People webinar. So you kind of were asking a little bit before about, you know, what is it with the Lovely People webinar, and it came about, as I said to you, because somebody who came to my group was saying, you know, what a lovely group, Lovely People group, and then I kind of looked around and I saw all these lovely people in my life, whereas before I came across the principles, my life seemed to be filled with scary things and scary people, and then all of a sudden all these people turned into really lovely people. So we decided to call these the Lovely People webinar and introduce all these lovely people to the world a little bit more via doing these webinars and sharing you with other people. So can you remember when we met, Julian?
It's quite a long time ago now, but I can't remember the exact event.
I can't remember where we first met. I'm guessing it might have been something to do with Jamie Smart, perhaps.
He did used to do these kind of free days, didn't he, up at Heathrow, where you could go along and listen to him, and then he'd see who was interested in signing up for his programs, and but that was quite good of him. I remember Beck, my wife, got up and in fact I think he asked her to get up at one and speak. She spoke from the audience. And people came up to her afterwards and said how amazing she was. Well, of course, she is an amazing woman, which is one of the reasons why I married her. So, the other one being love. So I still don't understand that moment, but it happened to me. So hey, I believe it. I'm a believer. but you know, it was an amazing moment where people just kind of get up and all of a sudden they shine out of themselves like so brightly. And she did that in that moment in front of hundreds of people at Jamie Smart's event. And it's just amazing that that's available for all of us any time. Yeah, that was a big moment. To see that was big. And what about you? What's your we've kind of been in touch on and off since then, haven't we?
Yeah, like you say, it has been we've known each other for quite a while, and we've chatted and met at various events and places and sort of caught up. And then the last time we caught up was in Spain in September. Is that true? Where we in September. Yeah, that was the last time. So I would really, really like it if you could share with me and this lovely group of people anything that either something you're seeing now or something you've seen. You know, what changed for you when you came across the principles? What do the principles look like to you? What can you share around that for us?
Yeah, there's been a massive difference for me, like pre and post. No, you can't be pre and post, can you?
Not exactly, but we know what you want.
Because actually, my big moment was actually before I'd met Jamie Smart or anybody to utter the words three principles, etc., which is always a great indicator to me that the principles are just a description of something that's already working, that has been working for you all of your life. But the difference is that you don't know, like when you don't know what you don't know. Like I struggled through a good part of my first 48 years because I didn't know where the on-off switch was on the box. Do you know that? Some really simple things that I didn't know. And when somebody explains that to you, you kind of go, oh, I get it now. You know, you kind of go, now I understand why that happened the way it did. you know, or I get some new perspective on it, and then it all seems different. Then life goes in a it's just in a different way. So I'll put this down to Jamie Smart, because there was a moment where this was end of 2011, and there was a very popular coaching question at the time, which was, how could 2012 be an adventure for you? So there's me having a telephone call with Jamie Smart, and he pops this question to me. And I kind of took the handset away from my face and looked at it and kind of went, what? And I put it back to and I said, well, it'll just be another year of hard graft like all the rest of them, Jamie. You know, that's what it is. And I suppose for me, that was a bit of a wake-up call that I was just trying too hard at it all, trying to control it all, trying to be. I don't know. I had just lots of thinking about what life needed to be, and that I wasn't getting it. I wasn't doing it, and I had no concept of life as an adventure. It's like, well, it can't be an adventure, because when you live from that place, life is almost like, you know, that I felt that doing all the hard graft and the hard yards and keeping on trying year after year was almost like validating me. And I suppose that might be a little bit like, well, what are the naughty people in the corner doing? Stop it, you girls. I felt a little bit like, you know, like somebody who gets diagnosed with something. You know, you've got hard work syndrome, and the hard work label had become me. You know, but it wasn't me at the same time. Now, with like all the best insights, you can't just go, let's just figure out what life being an adventure actually means and do that. You know, I want that thought now, you know. It doesn't, in my experience, it doesn't work like that. But at some point in the last few years, like I think it was about 2014, so that was 2 years later, I suddenly looked round and realized it was an adventure. It wasn't hard graft anymore. You know, I changed my perception of what life is. And I hadn't gone, right now I'm making a decision for 2013 that life is going to be you know, it wasn't like that. It just sort of drifts in on you, and you become that, or you realize that you've been that for years. Like filming, it wasn't until the end of 2014 that I realized that I'd been filming since 2010, and that was the thing that I really enjoyed. And so I kind of went, oh, okay, well, I'll just do that then. You know, and from then on, that's all I've done. That's one of the 3 or 4 things that I've done. So yeah, life has a way of going with the flow means a lot to me. It means a lot more to me now, because the hard yards that I did before then was often going against the flow. It wasn't feeling where life was leading and following that. It was going where I thought life should be taking me and trying to go there instead, which is not the same thing at all. It's not the same thing.
Can you tell me something like I know you mentioned you're filming there. I know I've kind of, the last few times I've seen you've been filming. So that was something that you kind of suddenly realized that you loved to do. Can you tell us about some of the people that you filmed and some of the things that you know, some of the realizations you've had around that, how that's changed things for you?
That's a lovely question, and I'm going to answer that in kind of 2 ways. Because first of all, if I was to say, you know, I did this thing, the genesis of the 3 principles, with the 3 Principles Foundation, and that was Chip and Jan and Elsie and also a bunch of people who were also kind of Sid Banks' original group, like Tom and Jan Tucker and so on. and just spending, how that all fell together was magical. Just spending time with them on Salt Spring Island was magical. The editing process of pulling all that together was really great. And I'm so pleased that, you know, something as like that has got out into the world for people to enjoy and understand the principles from a slightly different perspective or a slightly different angle. So that was lovely. And they, you know, one of the things that I was so impressed with, up to that point, I was trying to do the principles, like I was really trying hard to do the principles, like, you know, really working on it, you know.
You've got this hard work thing, haven't you, Julian? You've got to do this hard thing. You had it.
Well, and one of the things that keeps on coming up for me personally, and is still a challenge, is controlling it. So many times I'm looking for the controls to life. You know, I'm showing me the control. I need to pull and push the controls now. I need to, you know, make something, and it's like, no, they're wrong. You know, take your hands off the wheel. It's not down to you. You know, and it's coming back to that realize. And if you read my book, a lot of the book is about me. There's a kind of chaotic bit in the middle where I'm like, take control. No, don't do that. You know, and noticing I'm doing it again. It's like, why am I doing it again? So I was in a process of kind of taking my hands off the wheel more and more, and allowing the autopilot, if you can call it that, to do its thing. And just to go to be with those people on Salt Spring Island, and just experience the simplicity of living, the very uncomplicated way that they live their lives. And it was like, oh, okay, it's far simpler than I thought it was. And I tell you, you don't have to just get that from them, because Doris's husband, Chris Noonan, I absolutely love him because he just finds the simplest things so amazing and wonderful. And I don't think we as individuals, I certainly would tend to kind of not give that the time of day. I go, oh yeah, it's just flowers, you know. Oh yeah, just blue sky, you know. But Chris will go out and you know, take a fantastic photo of the sunrise or some, you know, and that comes across in his photos and his work. And I think if I spent some more time seeing life like that. Like, I was fortunate enough to go to Costa Rica to a place called Earth University, where they're training up a whole bunch of young people to go out and change the world, you know, sustainable farming and all those kind of things. And these are people with very poor or poor educational and sometimes poor living backgrounds. So they get an opportunity to go 4 years to a proper university and so on. And then they go out there to change the world, which is fantastic. And there was this lady from doing their keynote speech as they graduated, and her name is, I want to say Ruiz, Paula Ruiz, something like that. And she was saying, I ask my people that work for me to do their gratitudes every day. And she said, don't do 2 or 3, do 50. And it starts with, I'm breathing, you know, even the most simple things. And when you live more like that, you know, it's so special. Life is just being here is special, which no, I mean, you don't need to have millions of pounds in the bank. You don't need anything else. You just need to sit there and realize what's here and that you are here. And I think that's the simplicity that those guys on Salt Spring Island speak to. Gosh, that was a very long and winded first part of that answer. But the second bit is, I've met people, and in filming, like everyday people, like Maureen there. You know, Maureen very kindly agreed to sit down to film with me for some stuff that I'm pulling together for the Viva folk, with the Viva folk. Could be a joint thing. And the moment we switched the camera on and Maureen started talking, like I knew there was something powerful there, and this just had to be a film. And then I came home and I produced it and shared it with Maureen, and I hope it's going out into the world and doing something amazing, because it's an amazing. She was amazing in that moment, and it still is an amazing woman, of course. But in that moment, she was amazing, and I think the camera captured that, and I hope that people will watch it again and again and see something from what's possible for a person in the moment, through some really, really difficult circumstances. Or some people could look at that as difficult circumstances, and I hope to do more of that. I hope to do more of showing the world just what's possible for us, whether we know the principles or not, because we're still operating that way.
Mm.
Mm.
We had Maureen on as a lovely people guest a few weeks ago, so we kind of heard that, and she is a truly lovely. She is a fully fledged lovely person. She was brilliant. Her story is amazing. So if anyone didn't see that, obviously there's Julian's film out there and the Lovely People webinar with Maureen. It was a beautiful story, and very, yeah, it touched me that day. It was good. And I think, like you say, I suppose it's a different thing that I've seen, like doing these Lovely People webinars, just talking to people and hearing, like listening to you talking about this, you can hear something. It doesn't matter who the person is, what their story is, what they bring to the table. We all see something, and we also, when somebody sits in front of us and we have the conversation, I just think it's lovely we can get something from everybody's, the small things or the huge things that have happened to them. There's so much gold in those little gems that people kind of say. There's one thing when you were talking a minute ago, you mentioned this autopilot that you're kind of beginning to see, to try and living from autopilot. Will you expand on that a little bit for me, please, and talk about what you're seeing when you're saying autopilot?
There's a bit in my book that I wrote that is about behind you. You know when have you ever been to the pantomime?
I have.
There's that bit in the pantomime is a great fun, and there's that bit in the pantomime where the hero's at the front of the stage and the baddie comes on at the back of the stage, and all the audience shouts, "He's behind you!" And of course the hero then turns around and goes, "No, I can't see him." And exactly. And that to me it speaks of we're here, and our true self is right there with us, but it's behind you. Sometimes you can't see it. Sometimes you can get a glimpse of it out of the corner of your eye. But the thing that I've learned is that over a period of time, that person leaves a trail. And in my case, filming was one of them. Like, I was just consistently filming. And then this me kind of went, "Oh, so that's what you've been doing. Right. Okay, let's do more of that." Right. So there's that's one dot. I love there's a Steve Jobs address to Stanford University where he tells them about the dots in joining up the dots in his life, and how that's allowed him to look forwards or trust the process moving forwards. So my second dot is that ever since I've moved up here, I've got this thing about bringing the three principles into Teesside, because it's a whole area of, out of 153 national areas that the statistics come from. It's in, like, I don't know whether this is the top 6 or the bottom 6 most deprived areas, right? There's a lot of thinking in this area. And I never set out with some big crusade to kind of like, yes, we're going to fix Teesside. It was just a kind of, oh yeah, we'll bring Dick and Bettinger to Teesside. And we had 20 people in the room that first time. And then, I've just been consistently doing things to help Sue Anderson and Amanda Butt do their thing there, the community development. And we've made films, and, it's all, oh, you're whirling. Are you dancing?
I am dancing. It's all right. My son has come home and is suddenly making an awful lot of noise in the kitchen.
We couldn't hear any of that. So 3Ps in Teesside. I have no idea why I'm doing that. There is no monetary gain to be had from it, as far as I know. I just keep doing it, and so that's something else that's me, the true me, I guess. And also supporting people. I've always been a great supporter, and there's a guy that for example, I was talking to yesterday at a really difficult meeting with some clients, and he's had some difficult stuff go on in his life, and I've known him since he was in his 20s, and he's now 40 something, and I've just consistently supported him. I think that's the way it feels to me anyway. And it wasn't, again, I'm going to go out and do this thing. It just kind of happened. There are people in my life that I've just, even to the point of, there were some people that I employed in the early days of Stars of Wellbeing that were looking for their next step. And I just thought, I'm going to help them out. I don't really know why. I don't really know what they can offer, but so I keep doing that. And in my filming, I've always got this intention that even if a few more people could see, like, I'd love to have, I put up a thing on Facebook the other day about, I'd love to have a film that has 100,000 views, and I've got 84,000 views of all my films on YouTube. It's not bad, or maybe 86, but I'd love to have one film that had 100, and if it could have 100,000, I'm going to get into Michael Neal creating the possible now. But if it could have 100,000 views, why couldn't it have 500,000 views? And then I'm going to go, hold on a minute, I think I'm holding on to the controls again, and I need to let go and just carry on making the films that I'm inspired, that the people that I come across, and I don't even know who they are going to be and when and why. So I owe you a bit of an apology, actually, Deb, because I think we should have done that film with Josh. We should have done it. And it was me going, no, I need to there needs to be some money involved in this, and it didn't happen. And yeah, that's something I'm still kind of struggling with. I mean, Elsie was telling me, don't worry, just carry on being of service, and the money will sort itself out. And there's me still with my, well, you've got to realise why I wrote a book called Life Beyond Money, because I'm still there going, no, I need to create some money now, And so, but the good news is that having this understanding means I go, oh, that's my money story kicking in again, right? Okay, I don't need to pay that quite so much attention, and then it gets better, and then I'm back on track, and then I'm making great. Like I'm going to part of the adventure. Okay, Natasha Sredoff will ask me to go to Norway. I've never been to Norway in March, so her and Dickon are doing some stuff. So I'm going to do some filming over there. I said, well, I don't know what the filming will be. I mean, it's like nowadays, it's not even kind of. But I know that I'm going to get somewhere along the line. There'll be another Maureen film. There'll be somebody there that says something that's amazing, that is in a place that is amazing, and and if there isn't, that's okay too. I'm sure visiting Norway for the first time will also be fantastic. Yeah. So now I'm allowing that space where stuff can just happen. Stuff can I don't know what's going to happen next, and that's when it becomes an adventure. And the other thing I can trust about that process is that, and I do a few programs now, 3 principles programs, doing one in business, and trying to explain to people that, what is this much, and what mind has to offer is this much, this much, to get it on the screen, much bigger than anything that we can portray, and when you open up to that, then you start to see some of those other things that you would never have considered while you were in this little space. And that's magic. That's adventure. And how does that show up? I met a guy the other day called Nick Bottini. I'm sure that some of you guys will have heard his name. He's a musician, and he's just writing a book about 3 principles and performance. And he just got in touch with me and said, I want to make a film. So we just got together. And look, even the cats in the video, I bet you all can't see that, but even the cats in the anyway, I'm honoured that the cat is on the webinar, Doris. That's Sigurd or Baldur? Oh, Sigurd. Okay, cool. So he asked me to do this, to talk about filming. So I talked to him about some ideas about filming. But he said to me, he talked to me about, and there's something in his book, I hope you won't mind me kind of giving people a sneak preview, and he calls it no-brainers, because I love this concept. And he talks in this thing about no-brainers, about how he met his wife, right? So he was doing some internet dating, and he met this woman who turned out was in London at the same time that he lives in London. And she's a Russian lady, and they met and they hit it off. And then it turned out that she only had 2 days left on a holiday in London. She was going back to Moscow, or I think it's Moscow. And then they proceeded to have a 1,700-mile relationship, apart relationship. And yet that felt totally right. And 2 years on, they're married. And to me, that's like, when there's a great example of there's no decision to take, it's just so obvious that you're doing it. And that to me is when mind throws you something, and you just do it. You just, as long as you don't, in my old life, I would have compared it to the plan and, checked the controls and all the rest of it and gone, oh, no, that's not for me, and now I don't. I kind of go, oh, that's the thing to do then. Go do it. Get on with doing it. In fact, quite often, as I said, coming back to that other stuff, I've been doing it already, and I haven't really even realised that I'm doing it already. And it's like my brain catching up, this me catching up with that me. The superhero me is already on
it. Yeah. I love your honesty about going in and out of it with the controls thing, because, I think we can all do that, can't we? We kind of, I know when anything starts to happen, something happens, and then the next thing you're perfectly okay to let it unfold, letting it unfold, and then all of a sudden there comes a point, and you're kind of looking at what's going on around you, and you sort of have that, oh yeah, I know now, I know what's going to happen next. Yeah, I've got this, I can take over now, I'm in control, I can do this. And it's that keep reminding, actually, do you know what? You have no idea. Because when you were talking earlier about that kind of the little space of knowing, and then the big space of the unknown, and coming from that big space of the unknown gives us so much more potential when we just drop into that tiny little place of what we think we know.
No, absolutely. And then there's another thing that's quite addictive, which is if I can liken it to like a bicycling, right? When you get on a bicycle, you start pedaling it, and you start going, oh, this is quite good actually. And then you start pedaling it faster, you go faster, and you go, oh, this is really good. And then you start pedaling it even harder, and all of a sudden you're like breathless, and it's feels like hard work, and you've taken it too far. You're like, you've got this. It's almost like an addiction thing. You've got this. If I do more, I'll get more, and at a certain point, you get less. So sometimes and you get massively less if you're not careful. So at some point, it's good for me to drive things and to take over, and to want to kind of push it and so on, as long as I can play with it lightly, not be attached to it. I have to pedal at 100 mile an hour. Well, I'm never gonna manage that. Oh, okay. But if I can go, well, I'm just going to enjoy the pedaling. I'm just going to enjoy the cycling, and sometimes it'll be fast, and sometimes it'll be slow, and sometimes I won't even want to get on the bike, and that's all okay. There's a like one of the things when I'm talking to people, I make it sound like I do a lot of coaching, but I don't. Is Rudyard Kipling's "If" poem. If you can wage it all on one throw of pitch and toss and lose all your winnings and never say a word, it's that one. It's that whole kind of get engaged with life, but don't. It doesn't matter whether you winning and losing is just the same. It's just a different. It's an amazing poem. That it's just got so much sense in it. If you can talk with commoners and talk with kings and keep the common touch, that kind of, it's just got a lot in it. And I keep coming back to that about being a great way to, to be engaged with life, to be playing it fully, and to be enjoying the dance, to be fully immersed in it, but at the same time to know that it's not down to me. It's not. And if I'm not dancing, then I'm not, I'm not fully engaged with it. But at the same time, it's not down to me to figure out what the steps are.
Mm.
It's very, very, very simple. People in the Three Principles community, and that's probably a good name for it. They try to make it complicated. Now, I think that's because a lot of the times when, like I did to start off with, it was like, no, I need to understand it. I need to view it from lots of different angles. I need to, and there was a whole load of stuff for me that was, in the process of changing my course, that I needed to kind of let go of. In fact, if there is a doing that's associated with the Three Principles, it's about letting go, not only of the controls, but there are a lot of stories about you that you think are you or define you, or you keep bringing into today, and you trying to measure up what's going on for you today against those stories. Like, I work like this, or it happened for me like that, so it's going to happen for me like that again. And or that you think define you, and you're none of those. Now, let me just give you the counter side to that. I love a bit of nostalgia. My mum died in 2010. I've got great stories about her that I will tell you even now, and every day I can think fondly of her, and it buoys me up, and so I'm going to cheat and say those stories you can have, definitely, as much as you like, every day, all the time. But when you bring in all those, I can't do this, I don't do that, all that kind of stuff into, then don't do that. That's my coaching tip for today. You don't want to be doing that, as Harry Enfield used to say.
Don't listen to your limited thinking.
But it's limited because it kept, at a certain time, at a certain point, it kept you safe, or it was a reality that you managed to navigate through. So you're going, oh, okay, well, if I got into that situation again, at least I'd know one way of navigating my way through it. But that's, no two situations are the same. So why try and treat them the same?
Shall we see if anyone has got a question? Oh, there was one question here actually, but I think you did answer it, but you can say it again if you don't mind anyway. So will you tell us what the name of your book is, please, Julian?
Oh, yes, sorry. It's called Life Beyond Money, and it's on Amazon. You can buy it as a Kindle or a paperback. It was, I wrote it because I'd not been in this world of self-development or personal development, or I hadn't been seeking something about me until after my mum passed away. And so I didn't really have any experience of what it was like to do something transformational, and I felt like I ought to write it as a companion to people who are doing this, because it's like, you think you're doing it for the first time, but lots of other people have been through this stuff. So, and it's kind of my describes my journey a bit, and up to that point in 2012, anyway. And it has some of my insights in there, which were kind of maybe crude at the time, but as I look back at them, they all still stand. It's just, when you get that moment where you go, well, I said, think of it, the thought feeling connection. Well, I understand that so much better now than I did in 2000, right? I'd tell you exactly the same words. It's like, it's just your thinking. And you go, yeah. And I go, no, get it. It's just your thinking. Because I get it better, and there was a big one for me there. There was a big one in the sense of safe. When I explain the principles to people, and I've used the word that would probably be right. I explain them a lot. My friend Sue Anderson, when she does the 3 Principles programs with me, she doesn't explain them. She just loves everybody in the room, right? And for me, the real power of the principles is in that place beyond explanation. So when I'm in a room with people, the one nice thing I think I've scored before we've even started the session, because I don't go into that room with any preconceived ideas about who these people are, about what conditions they've got, what medication they might be taking, whether they're, criminal or otherwise. And, I don't care what their stories are, or when we're all in that room, we're just people. And I respect them, and I give them credit, and I talk to them as like, just fellow human beings. And I think that's a massive, even if they don't understand any of the explanation, that is massive. That is massive. And for me, when I go beyond, it wasn't any of the explanation of the principles that made the big difference for me. It was finally understanding that I'm safe. It was finally getting that I came from energy, and I will go back to being energy, and in between I'm this. And in all of those forms, I'm whole. I'm part of this thing called, this big thing. And right now I'm meant to be doing what I'm doing, and so I'm doing it, and I'm not prejudging it. And I probably got that from my mum passing away. I so saw who she was when she was alive, and then when she wasn't alive any longer, I saw that she wasn't there anymore. She wasn't in that body. She wasn't that. But I something in me knew that she was there, like she hadn't gone. Now you might say I'm crazy. You might be, go on, Lucy. Yeah, right, okay. But that's just how it occurred for me. And when you realise that there's nothing to play for, you don't have to. You're safe. That, you can rest on that. You can, it just so changes what life is, how you perceive life. That is that, and I think I heard Dickens say, in fact, I've got him on one of my films somewhere. He talks about the one principle: from nothing comes everything. And he says, I remember driving Dickon up from Fulford Harbour in Salt Spring Island, and he leaned over and he told me this little story about how Sid Banks had only really wanted there to be that one principle: from nothing comes everything. Because that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. And he said, and then he said that he found out that people were writing books with like 4 principles and stuff in them. And he said, and he kind of went, no, I have to be the one. If anybody's going to come out with the principles, it's going to be me. And so, but he made it 3 principles because the psychologists, or the thinking was that the psychologists needed enough to get their hands round, get their heads round, to make it something, because he wanted to make it simpler than that. And that still, for me, is really, really where it's like, whatever you think the principle is, it's simpler than that. It's any time you've got people jumping on these threads and kind of, no, I think it's this, no, I think it's that. It's like, it's simpler than that.
I think one of the kind of things that we are so restricted by really is, even having these conversations, it's words we're talking, and it's simpler than the words. It's way simpler than any words we could possibly use. But I think the thing that we've really, really got going for us is we are pointing towards truth. And because of the truth of a human being is there's something more to us, and there's something within us that has the capacity to see past that and to see the simplicity behind the words. When we're in a space to listen, that's kind of been my experience and my experience of people, that we can sort of see the simplicity of it past the chunky, clumsy words that we have to use.
Yeah, no, a lot of times I'll be talking to people and I'll stop and go, oh no, this is the wrong word, but I'm going to use it anyway in the hope that you'll understand what I really mean. And so that's very true. And one of the reasons why I like filming is because you can communicate with people through film in a bunch of other ways. When you get to see Maureen on that film, in some ways, I don't think it's anything to do with what she says. I think it's the person that's showing up in front of you. You pick up all the messages of the energy that she's got, and the way she carries herself and so on, without any of the word. You could switch the sound off, and you'd still get something from that film. And we're also experimenting. In fact, I'm gonna put it in the chat box now for everybody, hopefully. I'm experimenting with other types of film, and this is a little short thing, and because I think that there's this place for, like, one of the things I'm really keen on is that people should. You're your own best teacher. That's another thing about this thing, is that once you get what this principles thing is, you don't need to go anywhere else, because you're teaching yourself, well, this person behind you is showing you stuff about what's real all the time, And all you have to do is tune back into that, is get a glimpse of that. So I'm kind of seeing if there are ways that we can just see if people can tune back into themselves through films, and so I'd love it after this webinar if you guys could watch this little film and give me some feedback on what do you think? Did it take you somewhere? Because you're only, my wife says this wonderful thing. The words that you are speaking are the ones that you most need to hear. Let me repeat that. The words that you are speaking is the ones that you most need to hear. And so that's what these films are about. It's like, what is occurring for you? That's what you need to listen to. Now, I have to say, this is an area where I'd love to put my hands on the controls, because what I'm doing at the moment is trying to get backing to make more films like this. And at the moment, that's a bit kind of tumbleweedy. There's not much support coming from the Three Principles community, and I haven't been pushing it hard. I don't see that. Like, there are lots of people, and I obviously have some thinking, because there are people that jump on all the forums and go, yeah, sign up for my this, that, and the other, and I don't do that. But at the same time, I'd love for people to, sign up and support my filmmaking. And I want to make a proper film, a big proper film that I don't think anybody's made yet, about how people are so amazing. What's possible for us is so amazing. And that's on Patreon if you're interested. And I'm pleased and proud to say that Maureen signed up. So thank you so much for your support. It's really, really helpful. Because I'm doing some of this, and I've got a film called Two Views, in which I kind of end up saying to the camera, well, I'd just do it anyway. And I'm carrying on filming people, and I'm going to do what I can do. But if I could get some backing to do this thing, then I think it's amazing what we could show the world about what's possible for humanity, because we so keep forgetting it at the moment.
Shall we find out if anyone has got a question at all? I don't think anyone put their hand up or did anything, but I can't see everybody all the time. So if anyone has got anything they would like to ask Julian, anything that they would like to share that is occurring to them, or
I've got another question if while they're thinking about that. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. So if you want me to, jump in, but go on, Julian, that would be perfect.
All right. So I wrote this book in 2000, it got published in 2013, and it's quite a nice book, Life Beyond Money, because it says in it, if this changed one person's life, then it's all been worth writing, and it certainly changed mine. Just the writing of it, but I've also had some people who got in touch with me after the event who really saw something in it, which is fantastic. So it did its job. I mean, it's not going to be like a Michael Neal, sells thousands and thousands. Although I think it sold a few thousand, so it's not bad. But I'm thinking of writing the sequel now, because you know what? It's just your thinking. And I think I can describe that way better than I could then. So there's at some point there's a sequel coming up, and Nick Bettini, this guy I was talking about earlier, said, "Oh, you should call it The Missing Quid." What do you reckon? I had somebody. It's a bit irreverent, though, isn't it? It's a little bit. Anyway, and then somebody today said to me, or you could also call it A Penny for Your Thoughts. I thought, that's quite a nice idea as well. What do you reckon?
So, I love both of those. They're brilliant.
So again, my question to you is, is there a title? Which of those titles do you like? Those titles, and what would be the thing that you would like to know? If this was like, where do I want feedback sent? I'll tell you in a moment, Gavin. If you would like to know something, like I'm like, oh, now it's 7 years since I came across this understanding. I kind of get it now. I kind of get it much better than I did in 2013 when I was still kind of just getting to understand it. And so I'd like to write this one from that place. So yeah, if you're on your journey, what would you like to hear about? As if this is continuing companionship kind of thing, if I can offer some guidance and go, when you get to, and I had an uncle who used to he'd say, he lived in London, and he lived in Tottenham, and he said he'd go, how do you get to Clacton, whatever it was, and he'd say, first you go to Tottenham, and you go, no, I'm not starting in Tottenham, I want to go. But there's often people that you've been along the journey and you go, oh yeah, I remember when I got there, this is what happened to me. And so I'd like to be able to kind of continue to offer people the road's been traveled, and maybe that can help people get there quicker. I don't know. So to Gavin, feedback. I'd love feedback to julian@starsofwellbeing.com. That would be brilliant. And just putting it out there that once upon a time I went on safari and found this safari lodge, and it had a beautiful veranda that looked out over a waterhole, and I thought, oh, I'd love to sit here for 6 weeks and write my book. And if you read the first book, it says it didn't happen like that. It was mostly written on the 823 from Stourbridge Junction to London, Marylebone every time I went to London. So it wasn't in some lovely, gorgeous place. So I'm holding out hope that I can go back to that safari lodge and write it from there. That would be lovely. Who knows? Not getting attached to it, just putting it out there.
Yeah. Who knows? Anything could happen.
So then I've got a question for you, the girls, because we're almost at an end, or unless we're going to carry on. But do you think I qualified as a lovely people then tonight?
No.
No?
We had a yes and a no, I think, then.
Yes. Are you coming for the tattoo?
Yeah, you'll get the tattoo now, Julian.
I think everybody missed that. Before we came on air, they were deciding that there were going to be you can have a lovely people tattoo. So anybody else who's
qualified, if you got
who's qualified, yes.
Yeah, you had to get through the webinar to qualify. So everybody who's been on the webinar, yeah, Maureen will show you her tattoo one day. You never know, she might.
It's only small. Look, it's like this. A little heart.
Oh, okay.
And here's mine.
That's what you...
We've all got
It's the biggest tattoo I've
pull my
got.
jumper down enough to show you mine.
Actually, no.
It means you're in the family.
No, I'd be up for that. Send us the design and I'll do it.
Okay. Perfect. That means you're a sister or a cousin or an auntie.
Honorary.
It means you're a lovely person.
We'll call you Julia.
It's been done before. Julie as well.
Yeah,
Lovely.
yeah, that would be
Ms. Julie. Anyway, so no. Anybody else got anything? I've been talking a lot for this last hour. Anybody? Any comments? Any feedback? Any ideas that you'd like to offer?
I really like the way you talk about control, Julian. I resonated with a lot of that because that's something for me that I constantly go back to, wanting to take control again, and then I remember I don't need to. And sometimes I don't remember that.
It still happens that way, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like 7 years in. I mean, the best I've got to at the moment is to kind of go, to be able to catch myself quicker when I get into it. But even when I catch myself, sometimes I still get into it.
Yeah.
But I suppose the good thing about it is I give myself a little bit more compassion. It's like, oh, you're doing that again.
Oh yeah, look, there's me being human.
Yeah. What does Dev always say to us? Be kind to yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go.
Let it go. So has anyone else got anything that they would like to comment, share, ask Julian? Keep on.
Julian, I'd just like to go back to what you were saying about the starting from energy we turn into this form, and then we go back to back to energy. And in reference to your mother, I saw that very emphatically with the loss of my father, and it was deeply reassuring. And I was trying to explain it to my mother, and I think she got it on one level, but she was so attached to the physical form was no longer here. But I spent the week before my father passed away, I spent about 10 minutes with him on his own in a care home, and I looked into this chap's eyes, and there was a moment which people describe, and I've heard people talk about, and it's where there was only one person in the room. And there was a deep, deep connection. And the two physical bodies that were in the room kind of just disappeared, and there was one entity in that room. And I think that's just magical. So I really resonated with what you were saying about you start as this formless energy, we take on a physical shape during this thing we call life, but we never disappear. You can't get rid of energy. It's there forever. It may just take different shapes and forms, but it's always there. And I just find that deeply reassuring. So thank you for reminding me about that.
There's a lovely little clip. No, thank you. But there's a lovely little clip I've got of Amy Chen Mills talking about some of her last times with her dad, Roger Mills. And Roger Mills is lying in his hospital bed in the last stages of cancer. And he says this very simple thing. He said, real intimacy is two people with nothing on their minds. And to me, that speaks to, here's me, there's super me. When my super me meets your super me, that's it. And the bodies are completely, this is small me, that's big me. That's where it's at. That's when I really start to understand that we're all connected. Used to be a very glib statement for me. Didn't really get that. But it starts to mean more and more and more. So thank you.
Yeah, thank
you. Am I getting too serious now, girls?
Oh, we're loving
I did one more film. It's called 3 H's. You can look it up on my YouTube channel. In fact, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, go take a look, because there's Chip and Jan and Elsie and me and all kinds of people on them, Dickon, all kinds of people on there, and Jackie Hollows and Maureen, yeah, that are on there. So Chris Noonan's on there. So, but it's just a chance to, I've got this 3 H's video which talks about the kind of films I like to produce, and I've got to credit this to Chris Noonan again, because he called the 3 principles the light-hearted life, and in this film, I said I'd love all my films to have humanity in them, to remind people what humanity is, hope, because I think a lot of people get into a place where they just need to be reminded that it's all much better than they think. And the third one is humor, because I think it is light-hearted life is, isn't that a lovely way to, if you could choose to live your life, would you live it? Would you choose to do the hard yards, or would you choose to do the adventure? I know what I'd choose.
Thank you. That's really lovely. Thank you very, very much, Julian. Thank you very much for being here with us this evening. Thank you for what you shared and your honesty at times about going in and out of things. And that was really refreshing and nice and lovely. And thank you, Maureen. So has anyone else got anything they would like to say before we wrap it up this evening?
What have we got to say?
Next
Oh,
week.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm not good at this, am I, girls?
It's perfect.
They're my little reminders. So we've got Anka Herman next week, I believe, as our lovely, lovely person. So, yeah, I'm really, really excited to speak to Anka. She is a fellow seamstress. So let's see what lovely stories we can bring with that. So if anyone would like to join us next week, we will be chatting to Anka. So really looking forward to that. And again, yeah, thank you very, very, very much for being our lovely person tonight, Julian. That was lovely. It was lovely to catch up with you. It was lovely to hear about your films. Absolutely, if anyone hasn't subscribed to your YouTube channel, go and do that, because there is some brilliant things on there, some lovely films. And I know just from speaking to Maureen, if she's on there, you know, it was lovely speaking to Maureen. So that's really nice. So thank you.
And come to Devon soon.
Oh yeah. Come to Devon
We
soon.
might let you film us. You never know your luck.
Because we are certainly, me and the girls, we are certainly having an adventure at the moment, aren't we? We're
Yes, we are. Just a little bit.
Lucy and Becky are leaving Coventry to come and live in Devon, and I am.
Really?
Yes. And
Yeah, man. Where you been?
They're giving up their jobs, moving from Coventry, moving down to Devon, and we've completely let go of any controls, and we're just like, yeah, let's just see what happens next.
It's amazing.
And definitely, I completely agree with your 3 H's. And we do have a lot of fun, don't we, girls? A lot of fun. So.
Sometimes, yeah.
So I hope everybody had fun on the webinar this evening.